Hello Infiniteers, we are back in my Tron toy box, and today I am going to build my recreation of the MCP Core. Here is some footage of this location from the original movie. The MCP Core is situated on the top of a huge round mesa, like you see here. Inside the core is a large round chamber, and the MCP is in the center of that chamber. It is a large cylindrical structure that spins. Surrounding the MCP are a series of force fields that protect it from attack. When Kevin Flynn jumps into the MCP from above, it creates a gap in the force field that gives Tron an opening to attack it. Now, there are some challenges with trying to build this in the toy box. First, it would be tough to try to build a round mesa that large with the terrain pieces that we have and have it look right. I could have used basic blocks attached to a path, but that would have required hundreds and hundreds of blocks, and that would take up a ton of memory for no real benefit. And since we already have the MCP Core in the Sky Dome over there, as it looked in the movie, I chose to make the actual build for the MCP Core smaller and more practical. So my mesa is rectangular instead of round, which simplifies the architecture and saves memory. Second, because the top of the mesa in the movie is flat and mostly uninteresting, I chose to have the light beam travel into a hangar instead. To me, that made things a little more visually appealing, and it also created a confined space for the battle with the large Sakaran enemies. These are tough enemies, but they move slowly, and so that confined space makes it more challenging for the player to evade their attacks. Third, another change that I made in my toy box that's different from the movie is that my MCP does not spin. That is difficult to do with the path creator and have it look right. So I chose to build the MCP as it looks when it stops spinning, and I added more of those force fields that move around it to help capture the feel of it spinning. I also changed the face a bit, because frankly, those elongated eyes and nose in the movie just creeps me out. So we're going to make our face look a little bit different. But before we do anything, I have never moved the starting pad from when I first created this toy box, and it's going to be in our way. So we're going to pick this up, move it to the other side of the disc duel arena, over to the underground chamber where the player starts. And I want to center it on that far wall over there. So centered this way with that far wall, and lined up with these two vertical lines on that wall. So just like that. Okay. And then before we do anything else also, I need to set the terrain theme. So we're using, once again, Flynn's World. And let's pick that piece up and put it back to get to that part of the terrain drawer. And we're going to start by placing a couple of helper blocks. We're going to put them right along this terrain seam, right up against the backside of the disc duel arena, on this corner closest to the MCP in the Sky Dome. We're going to place one of those and two terrain cubes. So basically a total of 5 terrain cubes here. And then we're going to go to the right and pick up this small terrain block, although it really isn't that small. And again, line that up with the terrain seam there at the bottom. And we'll put another one over here on the edge of the terrain directly across from it. And then we're going to grab this large terrain block, put this right up on top just like that, stack it too high, grab the next size smaller, put 2 of these on this side too high, And then we'll put one of these on either corner, so it looks like the thing is actually supported by something and not floating in midair. And the reason I did this, instead of building this solid underneath here with more of these pieces, is because I needed this to be open for the racetrack that we're going to build next time. The track that runs around the perimeter of the game grid. I had to have it have a way to get around this thing, and rather than make it go around it, it seemed easier to make it go under it. Alright, then we can take these little helper blocks out. And the nice thing too is this kind of disguises the fact that that is the MCP core, because you see it in the Sky Dome. You don't really know what this structure is when you first start in the toy box. So I like that. Alright, so there is the top of our MCP core. And you can see it's pretty flat and uninteresting, just like the one in the movie. So we're going to make this look a little different, but I think we'll start with the actual MCP chamber. So if you'll forgive me for a second here, I'm trying to find my screen grab for this. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to go left from here in the terrain drawer. Sorry for that delay. I was trying to find the piece that I needed. The screenshot that I needed that showed me the piece that I needed, which was this outer canyon curve. We're going to place one of these over here on this corner and one on this corner. And we have a gap in the middle, and I could put some of the taller canyon walls there in the middle, but that would just be more dark around the perimeter of this chamber. And I thought it would be good to break that up a little bit by adding in something lighter. Because in the movie, that chamber isn't all dark all the way around. So we're going to put down some basic blocks here, these large block walls, and we're going to style these. If we go to the left, we're looking for the Death Star floor grate. We have to go a little ways to find that. There it is. I'll set that to be my theme. Okay. And that just breaks up the inside of this thing a little bit, so it's not dark all the way around. And I like that. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on this side and the other side. To me, this makes this a little bit more visually interesting. And then we'll pick this piece back up and put it down. We'll add in one on this end. And one on this end. And so there is the MCP core chamber where the MCP lives. That looks pretty good. Now on this side we're going to build a little platform for the player to be able to strike from. We're going to use this piece to do it. So this is going to sit flush with the back side there, and then this narrow piece there. And the reason I'm doing that is because when you build the MCP out of the basic blocks, it's going to be kind of tall. It's actually going to stick up a little ways above the top of this thing. And if you're trying to battle this from the floor of this chamber, it's a little bit difficult to reach the thing. to see it and to reach it. So having a platform up here with which to attack it gives you a better vantage point to see what you're battling. And so that's why we're doing that. Okay, and then we have the top of the mesa out here, which again is flat. And this is why I chose to build a hangar. So we're going to pick this piece up and put it down and use this next piece to the right. And actually, let's go ahead and center this right on there, because we need a platform to strike from. And then we're going to drop one over on this corner, stacked too high. And build a wall over on that side. We'll drop this piece up here on front like that. And then we're going to grab this tall terrain block, and you can see it's it's centered right over the light beams there, which is perfect. But we're going to raise this up just a little bit to make it a little bit clearer that that is the entrance. And then we'll use some of these blocks. Whoops. Delete that. It's sticking out a little bit too far. Kind of plug the gap and make it the same, make that opening the same on either side of that light beam. Okay, and then we're going to put 4 of these down here. And also we'll run some of these along this side. Okay, so here is the light beam coming in to the hangar. And this opening really isn't wide enough for the solar sailor, but doesn't need to be. And players aren't really going to be thinking about that anyway, I don't think. Alright, then we need a platform for the player to disembark on when they get off the light beam. And a ramp to get down from there. Okay, so there is the landing pad when you get off of the rail slide, and a ramp going down. And again, this creates a nice confined area for the player to battle those large Sakaran enemies. And I wanted to point out too that with these canyon curved walls, we have a nice circular chamber inside here. But of course, when you look at the outside, it is square. And in order for this to really look right, you need to have a curve that goes from about here all the way around to about here. And we don't have a curve that large, an exterior curve, in the terrain drawer. The best you got, if we pick this up, is this piece, which just isn't going to be wide enough. So you end up with something that looks like this, and then a long flat wall along here till you come to something like that. Or you have to build a path around the perimeter of this and use a ton of these building blocks here to try to build a large circular outer wall in order to make the MCP Core chamber look round like it does in the movie from the outside. And rather than spend all the time and memory trying to do that, I figure we'll just use what's in the Sky Dome. That's the MCP Core over there. And so when you're out here in the toy box and you're on the Sky Islands or you're down on the ground level and you're looking around, you see the MCP core over there in the corner of the sky dome. But then when you get over here, this structure obscures that. And so when you're in here and you come out up here and you see the MCP, it kind of feels like you've arrived over at that part of the sky dome. And so we're using what's already in the sky dome instead of trying to build that ourselves. And we're just capturing what's inside of that here in our build. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It's a little trick that I found that works with some sky domes to save memory if you use the structures in the sky dome itself to indicate places. Okay, and then we need a way to get up on top of this block here. And to do that, we're going to use the climbing piece that we used at the very start of the level way over here. And that is this piece right here. We already have that model loaded in memory, so we might as well reuse it. Okay, so we're going to put one of those down and just go around the perimeter of this thing. And that gives the player a way to get up on top of that platform. Alright, so there's my recreation of the MCP core. Again, it's not like what you see in the movie, but it gives you the idea. And it feels like it when you're in the toy box. Okay, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing really good. Let's go ahead and build the MCP itself. I think that would be fun. Alright, so we'll come up to the plants drawer. We're going to go to this Fantasy Terrain Corner 1. And what I want to do, we're going to center the MCP in this chamber, sort of. We're going to use this terrain seam here to center it on that wall. But I'm not going to center it this way because I want it to be set back a little ways away from where the player is going to be attacking it. So we're actually going to line it up this way with the edge of this wall. Okay? So our first piece, again, is going to line up with the edge of that. And it's going to sit right here like that. So this edge is lined up with that terrain seam. This edge with the edge of this block. And we're going to style this with that Tron rounded corner. I set that to be my theme. Alright, so there is the base for the MCP. Again, it's not centered, but it's back a little ways from where the player is going to be attacking it. If you place it in the exact center, it's going to be a little bit too close. And when you add in the spinning panels around it, it's just a little bit too easy to get the cannonball through those gaps. So this sets it back a little bit. Alright, so for the MCP core itself, we'll come down to the basic blocks. Go over to the left and we want to grab this triangle block. We're going to put that right on the middle of this platform. And we're going to change the theme to be the red gloss theme. I'm going to set that to be my theme. Don't use a textured theme like this. Use a solid theme, because that's going to help hide some of the flicker when we have blocks that are going to be overlapping here in a few minutes after we add them to a path. Okay, let's cancel out of that. Get out of spark mode, go back to the left, and we're going to pick up this long block. Put this right up here like that. And then we're going to grab the balcony block. And there really isn't a good way to make this thing look round, because I just don't have round blocks that are shaped like that. And so the goal is to make it look like the MCP from this angle, and the rest of it is just depth to the thing. We'll make it look deep. All right, so we'll pick this piece up, and we're going to put 2 of these on the back. Don't put one here, because that's where the mouth is going to go on this thing. And then we're going to pick up our balcony block again and put in another row of those on either side. And then for the mouth, we'll frame that in like that. Okay, let me, yeah. Okay, and then grab this long block here in the middle once again. We're going to place one of these here like this. And, yeah. A terrain cube on the front of that. That's where the eyes are going to go. And then this will be its forehead. Okay. And we'll grab this tall block, put that on either side. Oops. So there is the face for the MCP, or at least we're starting to frame it in. And then just fill in the rest of this with these tall blocks back there. Okay. Now, we pick up our balcony blocks here. What I would like to do is have this thing look like it's scowling, but if I try to fit that in there, you're going to end up with these really narrow eyes. And so what we're going to do instead, I want to use this piece, put in like that, like that. Okay? But I can't really, my gosh, does it let me do that? No, it doesn't. I didn't think so. I saw the yellow. I didn't see that the nose piece was actually highlighted red. So yeah, it's not going to let us stick that in there. So let's move this up here. We'll drop down the 2 blocks that we need. In order to put these where I want them, we're going to need a path. So we'll go up to the Creativitoys, go left to the Path Creator, and we are going to center this right underneath this block like that. Okay? And I think that failed to put me in point mode, so let's delete that and try that again. There we go. And we'll just go down 1, add that point, and exit. Okay, for the path properties, the main thing here is just turn off auto start objects when connected, because we don't want these blocks to move. So we'll grab our first block here, open the logic menu, do a new path connection, connect that to the path. And we'll select that block. I'm going to go into the new logic connection menu to anchor the camera here, and we'll exit out of that so that now I can rotate the camera where I want it while I am setting properties, and it won't spin on me uncontrollably. So that's a little trick that is helpful to know. All right, let's try the horizontal offset. Yeah, that's what we want. We're going to set that to 2. And then we're going to do basically something similar with this. New path connection. Connect that to the block. Select that block, open the logic menu, go into new logic connection and exit out of that to anchor the camera. Go into properties, and I'm guessing we're probably going to set this to -2 this time on the horizontal offset. Oh, nope. We're going to set it to 2 also. There we go. So now we have kind of a mad-looking MCP. And because we're using a solid color for the texture, you don't really notice any flickering because of the fact that these blocks are overlapping. So that's a really good thing there. All right, and then I think, just double checking my screenshots. Yeah, that's the only thing I did. So it's not quite like the MCP that you see in the movie. The MCP was actually a much taller column, but that's going to stick out above the top of this arena here, which I don't really want. So we don't want it to be too tall. And so that is my recreation of the MCP Core. Again, it doesn't exactly replicate what you see in the movie, but it does capture the essence of it. And I'll add the spinning force field panels around the MCP in a future episode when we get into the logic. Next time I will build the racetrack around the perimeter of the game grid, which gives the player something else to do in this toy box. You won't want to miss that, so be sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking my photo in the lower right corner of this video, and leave a comment before you go to let me know what you think of my MCP Core. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.